Hey everybody, welcome to CALI's webinar on Classcaster. We're going to teach you a little bit how to use podcasting and audio with our free blogging platform. On the line we have Elmer Masters. He's I'm Austin Greathouse, by the way, CALI's marketing person, and on the line we have Elmer Masters. He is our web guy at CALI. And we also have
Hello.
Deb Quintel and Levon, who are also staffers here at CALI. And I just want to encourage you, if you have any questions throughout, to go ahead and ask those using the question function of GoToWebinar. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll try to answer them. And so with that, Elmer, I'll let you take over.
Okay, thank you, Austin. As Austin said, I'm Elmer Masters. My actual title is Director of Internet Development. I'm going to be talking about podcasting on Classcaster. Just by way of background, Classcaster is CALI's podcasting and blogging network. It was originally designed 6 years ago as a way for law faculty to podcast their classes, and so the podcasting part has been sort of integral to the entire Classcaster experience from the very beginning. I'm going to jump right in. In a webinar 3 weeks ago, we covered setting up a Classcaster blog, and if you want to review that when this one's over, you can visit webinars.classcaster.net and run the Classcaster.net Part 1, an introduction webinar that'll show you everything you need to know about setting up a Classcaster blog and get you going. And then this sort of builds on top of that. So we're going to just sort of dive right in here. Now, as I said, Classcaster was designed with podcasting in mind. So generally, podcasting is defined as an audio file that's attached to a blog post. The audio file should be MP3s because those are the most easily used file formats, and the size stays relatively small and makes them really easy to use on the web. So all Classcaster blogs, this is a Classcaster blog. It's at team1.classcaster.net if you want to sort of follow along at home. We'll take a look at the behind the scenes. Every Classcaster blog, by default, has the ability to do podcasting. They all have the audio player plug-in set up by default, and this allows you to have a nifty little audio plug-in that puts a little player right in your post, so that when you add your MP3 to your blog post to create your podcast, you'll have a little embedded player right there, so students will be able to play it right away. Generally speaking, the default settings for the audio player work just fine, and you really don't need to change anything. So we can just take a quick look at those. I know some people do like to adjust the color scheme on the player and stuff to match there, so you can do some of that. You also want to make sure that the feed options will be useful, because that's how feeds are how people actually tend to listen to them. So they'll have your new posts will turn up in their feed reader. There's a podcasting tab in case you want to actually add stuff to your audio clips. So if you want to have a little bit of audio at the beginning of every podcast, you can record that and set it up. Not too many faculty do that. They tend to just they're either recording their classes or they're doing sort of audio lecture summaries or reviews that they record in their office after class and post those. Okay, so that's the built-in audio player. Using it is actually really straightforward, and we can actually go right into doing a little bit of podcasting. All you need to do to get going with podcasting, after you get your blog set up, is create a new post. So it'll be add a post and click on the new button, and then we'll say we'll give this a title. Sample podcast. Then there are links here to add media. So we actually want to look for the add audio. And then basically what that's going to do is allow us to select files from our computer. Now, you're going to record audio of your lecture or of your summary. There are a lot of tools out there for doing that. But you just want to get it into MP3 format. And you may want to check with, you can check help.classcaster.net, which is the help blog for Classcaster for some tips on how to do that. Also check the webinar page for this webinar at webinars.classcaster.net for some links to some FAQs on the CALI website also. For some of the things that we've done over the past few years to help folks do recording. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the MP3 that we want. And Classcaster now has a really nice Flash-based uploader, so you don't need to sort of fiddle around too much with things. It's just once you select the file, it'll upload automatically. Then you see that it pops open a little form that gives you the ability to do things like set the title, add descriptions. Okay. Then in the link URL space, we want to make sure that we click audio player because that's going to give us the format of the link so that the audio player is embedded in our post. Okay. And then we just click insert into post, and now we'll see that we've got a little bit of text in there. We probably don't want it at the top, so we'll move our cursor around, we'll push it down, and then we can just add a little text. We can add it to the My Podcast categories. We can tag it. So if this was a contracts lecture, for example, we could say contracts. And then when we're all done, we've got everything that we want from here. We can just click the publish button. Now, if we view the post, we now see that it's right there. There's the sample podcast, and the player is there. And if we click on the play button, it'll play. And so you get some music. Now, if this was a recording for your class, students will be able to listen to it right there. Okay. Now the other thing that you might want to do is also, for example, include a link to the file so that students can download it because they like to. Because a lot of times they want to download it and put it on to their MP3 player, their iPod or their iPhone or something like that to listen to while they're commuting and such. Okay. So that's sort of just like really, that's sort of podcasting out of the box with Classcaster. Now we have a number of other features that are available with Classcaster that are available as additional plugins. Now one of them, excuse me, one of them is called PodPress. So wait, I love the highlighter. PodPress is a plugin that that allows you to, that sort of gives you control over more control over your podcasting, and allows you to do stuff like set up a feed that can be sent to iTunes, so that your Classcaster podcast is available through iTunes. So we're going to go ahead and activate that plugin on this blog. Now you see that we now have an extra button down the bottom here that says PodPress. We'll click on that. PodPress has a lot of options to it. It allows you to list your podcast in a number of different directories. I think most folks who are using this are just putting it in iTunes. But if you really want to sort of get like maximum exposure for your stuff, for example, you can use some of the other directories also. Okay. Now you've got to go through, and one of the first things that you have to do is submit your feed to iTunes to get your feed ID back, which you need to put in here. Is that right, Austin?
Sorry, what was that, Elmer?
You have to. One of the first things you have to do is submit the feed to get the ID back.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So you can do stuff like validate your feed, make sure the feed is set up properly with your things in it. I'm not going to do it because I want this to turn up in iTunes. But you can do stuff like you can change your you can change the description. Then that turns up in iTunes. You can submit a logo. For example, your law school or parent university may have policies in place to say, you've got to use a certain logo or something for anything like this. So you can upload that here. You can add your name for as the author owner of the blog. You can put in a subtitle. You can put it in categories. I believe. Whoops, sorry about that. This Windows thing. I believe most folks list theirs as education, higher education, as the primary topic. So you can go through and fill all this out and click the update button when it's all set, and then submit the feed to iTunes. Now, actually, if you go to iTunes in the iTunes store in the podcast area, and you do a search for Classcaster, you'll see that there are already quite a few Classcaster podcasts that are already available in iTunes. So some folks have been doing this for a number of years, and this makes it easier, obviously, for students to get a hold of and to use.
If I can jump in, Elmer, if you go back to the actually in iTunes you have to submit it outside of the blog the first time initially when you submit it to iTunes. It's actually a process you have to do through your iTunes software, and that's you may have to Google that to find out how to do that, but there's a process you have to go through, like I said, outside of the blog, outside of our system, to get it into iTunes that first time initially, and then at that point it'll take care. Our blog will take care of everything you need to do.
Okay.
It's actually in the
iTunes.
It's in the iTunes store.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you probably have to be signed in and stuff.
Right, you have to be signed in. It's on the home page somewhere or in the podcast section.
Right.
But it's
right.
pretty.
That's one. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's just kind of tough to find, so you might have to look that up.
Yeah, and actually we should do an FAQ on that. There might be an old one which I'll take a look at and update.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind when you're adding your feed to iTunes, while it's great, it does require that everybody who wants to subscribe and such has an account with Apple. The links from Classcaster itself are freely open to anyone. You don't need to have an account to access it. So, in terms of sort of making it easiest for your students, certainly just leaving it on, making sure that it's available on Classcaster is one way to do it. And then, if they already happen to have an Apple account, certainly adding it to iTunes is a good idea. And then there are then more settings that work with the PodPress plugin also, that allow you to do things like turn on different things and tell it where to place the player and that sort of thing. PodPress will also handle video as well as audio. So you can have a video player also. Generally, we don't encourage people to use video recordings of their classes because they take up a lot of space, and students like being able to just listen to the audio. The audio is actually much more popular from the student's point of view.
Right, students like to be able to listen to this on their own time when they're at the gym or on the train or during a commute or whatever. You can't really do that with video.
Exactly. Now, another podcasting plugin for Classcaster that we like a lot is something that's actually unique to Classcaster, which is the Classcaster phone blog. Basically, what this allows you to do is pick up a phone, any phone, dial a phone number, and then enter in a little bit of information and record a podcast. So you could, using a cell phone, record your class, for example, or you could record summaries after the class. We've had folks use it to record interviews using three-way calling. You can add the Classcaster recorder in as the third person on a three-way call, so it's allowed them to record interviews with sort of special guests and that sort of thing. Also, folks have used it to have people call in sort of guest lectures and things like that. So there's a lot of use here that's enabled by having the ability to sort of just phone stuff in. And in this case, phoning it in is actually a good thing, not bad. So once you've activated, and this has to be turned on, and then once you've activated the Classcaster phone blog, you can go to your settings, and we can set it up. Now, I've already set this one up. But basically, you want to put in the 10-digit phone number that you're going to use to call in. You just have to remember what this number is. You don't have to call just from this phone. So if you happen to call from another phone, you can still use this number and the 4-digit PIN to identify yourself, and that will get it back to your blog also. Okay. We ask you to put in a topic about what for your blog, and along with your full name. And then this actually gets included in the metadata with the recording, so that that'll help. That helps with sort of findability and those sorts of things. And then you need to put in your Classcaster password here. This is stored separately from the rest of the system. So if you actually change your Classcaster or your CALI password, you're going to need to come back and change it here too, right here. Okay. So once this is done, I'm actually going to go ahead and actually make a call. So what's going to happen is I'm going to dial this number right here, okay? Enter in my information, and I'll have a phone. I'll record a short phone call, and then we'll see that it'll turn up in the media library, and we'll also see a draft post appear when I'm done. So let's go ahead and find that phone number. Okay, so I'm going to use more than one cell phone at a time. Okay, so on this cell phone, we're going to dial 678-578-0918. Welcome to Classcaster. Please enter your 10-digit phone number. Okay, so it's asking me to enter the phone number that I put in, so we're going to put that in. Okay. Please enter your 4-digit PIN. And then it asks for the 4-digit PIN. So we'll enter that. After the tone, please record your lecturette. Press pound to stop recording. So now I'm recording now on Classcaster. So everything that I'm saying right now is being recorded on a separate phone call. And then what's going to happen is that when I'm done, I'm going to press the pound key, and that will allow me to either review or save my recording. And then when I'm done, I'll press the pound key again, and then it'll send it off to the blog. So we'll press the pound key. Press 3 to review your lecturette.
Is that your voice, Elmer?
It is my voice.
Very nice.
So we're gonna press 4 to save the recording. The lecturette has been saved. Goodbye. And then that's it. It'll now hang up the call, and what'll happen is that it'll process that, and it'll turn up on Classcaster. Now, because this was a really short call, just about a little over a minute, it actually turns up pretty fast. If you're doing something like recording a 50-minute lecture, it'll take like 5 or 10 minutes for it to show up. So, because there's some processing that has to go on in the background. But now, if we look at media, we'll see that there is another MP3 there that wasn't there a few minutes ago, and it's attached to a post called the Classcaster podcast for 10/12/08. So we are going to, and if we look at posts, we'll see that there is a draft post there. So we're gonna, we'll take a look at that. So this is the draft post that comes out automatically. That's automatically generated by Classcaster when you use the phone call-in system. Okay, so we can see that that it puts some stuff in, and then what you want to do is that you would probably want to edit everything above everything above this horizontal line, to maybe put in a little description about so let's see, this is a recorded phone call. Okay, and then again we can we can set the categories and whatever else we want to put on, and then we can publish it. Now if we take a look at that, now we've got another we can now, if we click on the player, now I'm recording now. So everything that I'm saying right now is being recorded. So that's the phone call that we just. And then what's going to happen is that's the phone call that we just recorded, and you'll see that it includes my name and the title of the blog are scrolling in there, so that people have some idea about what's going on. There's also a download link. Which, let's see, we're in Windows, so I think if I click on this, right, so it'll actually start to play it. I'm recording now on Classcaster, so and again, we can. This is actually built into. It's actually built into Chrome. We can go back, but if we wanted to actually download it locally, we could do save link as, and then that would allow me to download the file. And then I could put it in iTunes, or I could load it on my MP3 player, or burn it to a CD, or whatever I'd like to do, and then play it elsewhere. So, okay, so that's the phone, the phone to blog, the phone blogging part of Classcaster. Now, there's no time limit. I've actually had people record 3-hour seminar classes uninterrupted with the phone. So it will run, and if your call gets interrupted or dropped, it automatically saves whatever it has and will send that to your blog. So you don't lose anything if there's a problem with the call.
This isn't a 1-800 number though, right? So that anyone who's calling in is responsible for the minutes or long distance they
Yes, right. It's not it's a local to the Metro Atlanta area. So if you're calling in, right now we have one phone number that has 4 lines attached to it. If there were demand, we could add more numbers or lines. And we could get numbers in different areas also if there was enough demand for it. But we've had just sort of light use on it. But it is something. We have at least 2 faculty members that have been using it since we started 5 years ago. So they've recorded a lot of stuff. So, kind of in a nutshell, that's sort of the basics of podcasting for Classcaster. If you have any questions, I would encourage you to visit the Classcaster, help.classcaster.net, which is where the Classcaster FAQ and forums are. And so if you have questions, you can ask them on the forums. Or you can send them to me, emasters@cali.org, and I'll be able to help you out. We also have there are also some other FAQs on the main CALI website that have not quite made their way to the Classcaster FAQ yet, but we'll be getting them there. And then also you want to check the CALI webinars for this webinar, as well as the introduction to Classcaster from last month, to get the basics on Classcaster itself. Are there any questions?
I don't think we have any questions at this point, Elmer.
Okay.
So I want to thank you guys for attending our webinar. And if you have any questions, like Elmer said, you can email him or email me, especially about the submitting to iTunes thing. I've done that a few times with a couple of podcasts, so just let me know. It can get kind of confusing. But as always, I encourage you to go in there and play with the settings. There's a lot of features in there. It's pretty rich. And it's pretty fun to play with and see yourself up on iTunes, so definitely encourage you to do that. With that, Elmer, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't.
All right. I think we're good then. We'll see you guys next time.